Good morning. It is Thursday morning, 1/23/2020, and it is a beautiful day. I'm running a little bit late, but that's okay because every day is a new day, every day is a new experience, and I forgive myself for being late because I'm not often late. So, today's affirmation is, there's always a new and better way for me to experience life. I forgive and release the past, and I move into joy. I love that. I like that it's an affirmation to deal with hopelessness and helplessness. And I'm deliberately staying out of the political stuff right now. I'm researching. I research and I pay attention, but I'm not watching the media. Because it creates a great deal of stress, and all I remember is the nightmare of 2016. So, this is a really good affirmation for today. There is always a new and better way for me to experience life. I can choose to turn it off. You know, I'm a big NPR listener. And right now, for the last 2 months, I've been listening to an audiobook going to and from work. I'm not turning on the radio. I'm not watching the news online. Every once in a while I pick up a newspaper and kind of touch in, but I'm being very careful because the anxiety and the pervasiveness of people trying to con me into fake is, there is a difference between being informed and educated about a topic and being coerced. And it is part of politics to coerce your population to go in your direction. I mean, that's the way politics has been forever. But I choose not to listen to the banter that creates that coercion. So I prefer to be educated, and I'm careful about what news sources that I look into, and I read a lot rather than listening so that I have time to process and think about what it is that someone has said. Anyway, but today's affirmation is there's always a new and better way for me to experience life. And that is actually an example of what I have changed this big political go-around. Because I have other things I need to put my mind to. And listening to the coercion day in and day out for the next 10 months is not something that I want to do. I forgive and release the past. I move into joy. There have been things in my past that still trigger me and create a great deal of anxiety and angst. And so it's important to have tools to be able to release those things when they come in your direction. And it takes time. It takes time to rework your reaction to those things. So when you have triggers that cause muteness or rage or helplessness or hopelessness or whatever it might be, whatever your reaction to that trigger is, when it happens, and if you want to change it, it takes a serious amount of mindfulness and breathing, like we talked about yesterday, breath work, a serious amount of acknowledgement that you are reacting, figuring out what it is that is actually triggering you, and how to rework the problem, how to rework your knee-jerk, critter brain, caveman inside yourself reaction that you've had for years, and how do you stop it and rework the problem and come up with a different response that works on healing the self. And it's a hard thing to do. You know, I had a conversation with one of my clients, I think last month, and her mom triggers her really bad, and she had to go back home for the holidays and be in the same room with her mother. And her mother has a tendency to be one of those people that it's always a negative thing. Like, hey, Mom, look at these flowers. Well, they're an ugly shade of pink. Like, not like, oh, what beautiful flowers. Thank you very much. It's always a criticism, or couldn't you have gotten longer stalks? Or I don't like those flowers. I like these flowers. Like somebody who always has a negative response to anything. Okay. And she moved away from home about 35 years ago, raised a kid, has a wonderful career, works on being positive every day. And she's not always successful, but she went back home and she said, I found myself in the living room one afternoon realizing that I had kind of already worked through how to not be that person that I grew up with and how to reinforce who I am. But I had never worked on what is my response to somebody who triggers, and it's growing up with my mother that triggers me in people. And she goes, I was sitting in the living room. It was just like one of those eye-opening experiences. And she's like, wow, I don't know what to do with this information. I don't know how to make this better. So I guess later on in the holiday, I guess she spent like 5 or 6 days back home. And she said by the time she left, or the day before she left or something, her mother said something negative. And she said, that's okay. I know you can't help it, and I love you anyway. And turned around and walked out of the room. And she said her dad came to her later and was like, that was the weirdest response. Like, he noted that it was like a very bizarre response for her to have. And, when she came into her session with me, she goes, I just didn't have anything else that I knew what to say or do. There was nothing that I could respond to her that didn't feed the negativity. So I just gave her love. And she said it didn't make it better, but it helped her not be angry, frustrated, bitter, reactionary, because she knows that when her mother's like that, she gets defensive and then gets drawn into this argument about flowers, like about nothing. And that was her out. And nobody else in the room knew that that's what was going on, but she did. And she goes, it was very liberating, but it was also like, now I know, I'm in my 50s and I have to figure out I know other people that I've encountered in my life, clients, she's a yoga teacher, clients and people that she's worked with that have triggered her, and she didn't realize why they were triggering her. And now she knows, and she can work on that. So you can be older, younger, anywhere in your life, and discover these things and find positive new ways of developing positive skills to deal with triggers in your life. And a lot of us have people that trigger us, and it makes us feel hopeless and helpless and angry and frustrated, and that helplessness of it's happened again and I don't understand why. And we all have the opportunity each day in our life to find new solutions if we know what it is that's triggering us. A lot of times we don't know, and that by itself is a discovery process all by itself, because you might not be ready to see it, and that's okay too. You can't fix everything all in one day. That's not how this works. Okay. So that is our daily devotion today. Our affirmation is, I'll read it again. There is always a new and better way for me to experience life. I forgive and release the past. I move into joy. It's beautiful. So I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow, Friday, in prayer. Blessed be.